Thank you for joining us for this episode of Ukraine, an Unwanted War. This series is brought to you by ProPics Canada Media Ltd, with support from Kary Movers. In this series, we're going to talk not only about the current situation in Ukraine, but also a bit of the history of the war going back to 2014. We'll also explore the impact of the refugee crisis on Europe and the world as a whole. We'll also speak with people and view different protests and rallies that have taken place around the world in support of Ukraine and in protest of Russia's actions. So let's take a moment here and listen to this young lady who's going to share her reasons for participating in the rally that was in Vancouver at the end of February in 2022, just after the invasion by Russia was taking place.
Government official, you don't have the access to send all the funds, and I just wanted to feel like I was on the right side of history and stand with Ukraine and stand for peace and just be here to make a stand and of some sort. And obviously we can donate to funds, but just to be an actual presence to say we support the Ukraine and peace.
What would you say to the people of Ukraine if you were sending a message direct to them?
There's always hope, and we're praying for you, we are believing for you, we are believing for peace and praying that you find strength. We are amazed by your incredible courage, and you are an inspiration to the world, and we stand with you and stand for peace with you.
Thank you, that was wonderful.
Sorry.
In this episode, we'll look at the outrage around the world and the rallies that took place in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. The rally took place at the Vancouver Art Gallery, and people marched from there to the Vancouver waterfront. This was a small number in comparison to the people around the globe who showed up and rallied in support of Ukraine and protesting Vladimir Putin and the Russian military's actions. 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine in a major escalation of the Russian-Ukrainian war, which actually began in 2014. The invasion has caused tens of thousands of deaths on both sides and instigated Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. About 8 million Ukrainians were displaced within their country by June, with more than 8 million fleeing the country by February of 2023. After the Revolution of Dignity in 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, and Russian-backed paramilitaries seized the Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts of Ukraine's Donbas region. This sparked a regional war. In March of 2021, Russia began a military buildup, amassing up to 190,000 soldiers at Ukraine's borders. Russian government officials lied as they denied plans to attack Ukraine until the day before the invasion. On the 21st of February, Russia recognized the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic. These are two self-proclaimed breakaway quasi-states in the Donbas. The next day, the Federation Council of Russia authorized the use of military force, and Russian soldiers entered both territories. The invasion began at about 3:40 a.m. on February the 24th upon Russian President Vladimir Putin's announcement of a special military operation seeking the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. He also challenged Ukraine's right to statehood and falsely claimed that Ukraine was governed by neo-Nazis who persecuted the ethnic Russian minority. Minutes later, Russian airstrikes and a ground invasion were launched along the northern front from Belarus towards Kyiv, a northeastern front towards Kharkiv, and southern front from Crimea, and a southeastern front from Donetsk and Luhansk. In response, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky enacted martial law and a general mobilization. Let's now take a step back here and look at the background. After the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, the newly independent republics of Ukraine and Russia maintained ties. Ukraine agreed in 1994 to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and dismantle the nuclear weapons in Ukraine left by the USSR. In return, Russia, the UK, and the US agreed in the Budapest Memorandum to uphold the territorial integrity of Ukraine. In 1999, Russia signed the Charter for European Security, which reaffirmed the inherent right of each and every participating state to be free to choose or change its security agreements, including the Treaty of Alliance. After the Soviet Union collapsed, several former Eastern Bloc countries joined NATO. Partly due to regional security, NATO would not expand eastward. Although this is disputed, at the end of 2008, at the Bucharest summit, Ukraine and Georgia sought to join NATO. The response among existing members was divided, with Western European countries concerned about antagonizing Russia. NATO ultimately refused to offer Ukraine and Georgia membership, but also issued a statement agreeing that these countries will become members of NATO. Vladimir Putin voiced strong opposition to the NATO membership bids. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia would do everything it could to prevent their admittance. In November of 2013, Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych refused to sign an association agreement with the European Union, instead choosing closer ties with the Russian-led Eurasian Economic Union. This was led by Russia, and they had put pressure on Ukraine to reject the agreement. This triggered a wave of pro-EU protests known as Euromaidan, culminating in the removal of Yanukovych in February of 2014, and subsequent pro-Russian unrest in eastern and southern parts of Ukraine. Russian soldiers without insignia took control of strategic positions and infrastructure in the Ukrainian territory of Crimea and seized the Crimean parliament. In March, Russia organized a controversial referendum and annexed Crimea. This was followed by the outbreak of the war in Donbass, which began in April of 2014 with the formation of two Russia-backed separatist quasi-states, the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic. Russian troops were involved in the conflict, and the Minsk Agreement signed in September of 2014 and February 2015 were a bid to stop the fighting, but ceasefires reportedly failed. A dispute emerged over the role of Russia. Normandy format members France, Germany, and Ukraine saw Minsk as an agreement between Russia and Ukraine, whereas Russia insisted Ukraine should negotiate directly with the two separatist republics. Tuning into this episode of Ukraine and Unwanted War, brought to you by ProPics Canada Media Ltd, with support of Kary Movers Ltd. In the next episode, we're going to take a look at the impacts on Europe and the rest of the world of the Ukrainian refugee crisis that was impacting a lot of countries, including Poland and others along the Ukrainian borders, with a sudden influx of population that really put pressure on resources and infrastructure in the neighboring countries. Don't forget to like and subscribe to make sure you're updated when the next episode is available.